Crazy. Oops, sorry.
Okay, looks like people are starting to filter in. Good morning, everybody. I guess, is it good evening to you, Pablo, right now? What time is it in Spain?
It is 7:00 p.m., 7 p.m.
Wow. So you're just finishing up your day. I'm just starting my day.
Yes. And that's wonderful. You know, we are all, in the end, that's one of the magical things of this world. There is like, you know, you can be anywhere and at the same time be connected to the other part of the world through technology. And that's
yeah, it's
that's
pretty
amazing.
crazy. It's pretty
Yeah, it
amazing,
is.
especially helpful during times like this when no one can really travel.
Exactly. I think it's, I mean, right now, the best way of traveling is through our imagination. And this has been
Yeah.
always one of our most powerful tools. And, you know, we can go anywhere with our imagination and imagine beautiful things, or music, you know, invites us to imagine things and to travel with music and to connect with people. You know, in the end, it's been very strange times, and we are valuing most than ever to connect with people and to, you know, to feel close to people, closer to people. So that's I think those are also, you know, little sprouts of good things that we are all experiencing through these very strange times and difficult times for most of us and for many people that are suffering the consequences directly.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Okay, so I think we are ready to get started. I am now officially the host of this meeting. So welcome everybody. We're going to start with a little clip from the last time that Pablo was here with Pacific Symphony, and then I will do all the introductions. So let's see, I'm going to mute myself and share. Yay! So, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us at this different time on Wednesday morning. I'm so honored and excited to be joined by Pablo Villegas for this week's mixer. Those of you who are Symphony subscribers will remember that he's been with us a number of times, and it's just an absolute sensation every time. It's so much fun. That was from, I believe, the last time he was here, it was the encore Tico Tico, and obviously great reception for that. So good morning or good evening to you, Pablo. Good morning to us. Oh, you're still muted. Just, yeah, there you go.
Exactly. Good evening, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Wonderful memories from that time. Last time I was there, it was, I think, a year and something ago, and it was wonderful. It was what a great reception of the audience, and in the end, you know, music belongs to people, and you know, to receive all this applause afterwards is a celebration. In the end of music, it's a celebration of humanity. It's a celebration of all of us, and that was really special.
Yeah, I think it was special for all of us. It was really fun. So for those of you who are tuning in, who are new to the mixer concept, basically, we're just going to be chatting, and you know, you are welcome to submit your questions and comments on whatever we're talking about or anything you'd like to know from Pablo. There is a Q&A button on your screen that you can use to submit questions. There's also the chat function, and we will see them in both places and do our best to get to them. We have a few partnering restaurants that I want to mention. They are the Silver Trumpet Restaurant and Bar in Costa Mesa, Hendrix Restaurant and Bar in Laguna Niguel, Toast Kitchen and Bakery in Costa Mesa, Provenance in Newport Beach, Haven Craft Kitchen and Bar in Orange, Descanso Restaurant in Costa Mesa, and Adya in Irvine. And they all have, you know, certain deals and specials related to these mixers, so definitely check them out. So like I said, the amazing Pablo Villegas is here. Just to give you a little introduction of his background, he has been called the Global Ambassador of Spanish Guitar by Billboard magazine. He's won so many competitions, it's amazing, including the gold medal at the Christopher Parkening International Guitar Competition. In addition to Pacific Symphony, he's performed concertos with orchestras all around the world: New York Philharmonic, Los Angeles Philharmonic, Chicago Symphony, and has collaborated with luminaries in the classical music world, such as Augustine Hadelich, Placido Domingo, and he's an exclusive artist of the Sony Classical label. So pretty impressive. So just to go back to your appearances with Pacific Symphony, so you, I think, have played here twice, is that right?
Yes.
And both times you performed concertos by Joaquin Rodrigo.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about, because I feel like Rodrigo's name is so linked with the guitar and with particularly the two pieces that you've performed with us. Can you tell us a little bit about who he is and why those two concertos are so special to guitarists?
Definitely. Joaquin Rodrigo is one of the most popular composers that have composed for the guitar a number of pieces, and he obviously he not only composed for the guitar, but he's been quite famous and popular through the guitar. And he was from Valencia. It's a region in the north, in the east part, the Mediterranean part of Spain. And he was blind at a very early age, at 3 or 4 years old. So he had some recalls of light and memories of seeing and being able to see the world. But because of this illness, he became blind, and then he remained blind the rest of his life. So that's something that really defined his personality a lot. So he was a very introverted man, and in that introversion, he was able to connect with his most deep emotions, and that's something that I think is been part of his music throughout all the pieces. So because of his relationship with the Romero's family, he started to compose different pieces, and also, and before the Romero's family, with Maestro Andrés Segovia. So the first piece he composed actually was Concierto de Aranjuez. Concierto de Aranjuez is probably the most popular guitar concerto ever written and one of the most beloved guitar concertos in general of classical music because of the second movement. So this concerto has three movements. That's the concerto I played, I think, the first time, my first visit. And it has the nationalistic style of Spain. It is very Spanish. All the sounds, all the harmonies and melodies and rhythms are very Spanish. So the first movement is inspired in the flamenco music, and the flamenco music is very rooted, it's very rhythmic, it's very dramatic, it is the music of the gypsies, very ancestral. So it has this seriousness, this drama in it, and it is a celebration but dramatic and serious and very grounded, as I said. You can imagine the flamenco dancers stepping on the floor, right? Doing the zapateado. Well, that's the first movement. The third movement is very airy, very lightweight. It is very rhythmic, but it's very, cortus, like very, how do you say? Very lightweight, like a dance. And the second movement is very dramatic because he lost a son, and he was able to transmute all his emotions into one of the most powerful and profound music ever written. And that's the second movement of the concerto. Well, there is an anecdote around this concerto. He wrote this concerto, but he didn't dedicate this concerto to Andrés Segovia. And Andrés Segovia at that time, in the late 30s, he was the guitarist in the world. He was the one. So that was when this piece was premiered in Barcelona, in Palau de la Música. It was premiered by another guitarist called Regino Sainz de la Maza, which, you know, he was a wonderful teacher apparently, but he wasn't as great concert guitarist as Andrés Segovia was. He didn't travel as much, he didn't play so many concerts, but the concerto was dedicated to him. So after he played the concerto and they premiered the concerto, there was a big success. So Andrés Segovia was quite jealous because he had a big personality. And he said, well, you know, I wasn't part of that success, but, you know, I'm their one. So he never played, Andrés Segovia never played this concerto in his life. Never, he refused. Even though it was becoming more and more famous and more popular, he refused to play that concerto. So Maestro Joaquin Rodrigo, I guess, you know, wanted to make up this situation. So he decided to write Fantasía for a Nobleman, Fantasía para un Gentilhombre. And this time it was dedicated to Maestro Andrés Segovia. And Maestro Andrés Segovia played Fantasía for un Gentilhombre many times. And the nobleman, Fantasía for a Nobleman, the nobleman was Andrés Segovia. So he was trying to, you know, to make it pompous and to flatter a little bit Andrés Segovia, so he would, you know, he would forgive him for not having dedicated Concierto Aranjuez to him. And this Fantasía for a Nobleman is inspired in the Renaissance and Baroque dances from Spain, where when the lutes and the vihuela and the Baroque guitar were very popular. So the concerto has different movements, and there is a beautiful dialogue between the orchestra and the soloist. Those two are the most popular orchestral pieces for guitar and orchestra by Rodrigo. He studied in Paris, and then that was, you know, that was in trend when he was young, and then he lived in Spain the rest of his life, and it's quite amazing to see some videos of his, how he would compose, and he would dictate to a transcriptor how to, you know, every note, every instrument, the orchestration of all the orchestra. You know, there are 60 people on stage, how every note was in his head. And he was able to dictate every single note, the flute, the oboe, the second oboe, the second flute, and the violins, and so on. So that's quite remarkable how, you know, that shows us how sometimes limitations, in this case, you know, the limitation that he couldn't see, but he was able to overcome that limitation to give the best of himself and to go to certain places, emotional places that probably he only knew because he was blind.
That's amazing. Yeah, I didn't realize that he dictated all of his music out to other people like that. I also didn't know that the second movement of the Concierto de Aranjuez was inspired by the loss of his child.
Actually, I would like to say a few words about the second movement because it is really special. It's the dramatic moment of the concerto who really holds the first and the third movement. And the orchestra is the representation of God, and the guitar is the representation of his voice, the human voice, a human voice that is feeling pain, that is in despair, that has just lost his son, and is in communication with God, is asking him, why me? Why did you take my son away? And then, you know, there is this beautiful conversation of the great orchestra, the great voice of God, and the honest, humble, and profound voice of himself. So it is a conversation between humanity and divinity. And that's something that has been part of humanity for thousands of years. That relationship between the human and the divine. And it is like David and Goliath, right? And it is that tension between these two ecosystems that in the end, the only possible way to resolve that tension is by reconciling those, you know, reconciling the divinity within your humanity and reconciling your humanity within the divinity and becoming one and accepting. And that movement is about acceptance. That movement is about reconciliation. That movement is about letting go. And yeah, as profound as it is, and every time I play it, you know, I feel I know Joaquin Rodrigo, and I never had the chance to meet him in person, but every time I play, you know, I'm having this conversation with him and with God too.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good points. And I think also, you know, you talk about these sort of like big overarching concepts. And I think that music is sort of uniquely placed to actually express those in a very visceral way that you feel rather than think always, you know, it's interesting.
Yes. And actually, in the end, we have two ways to perceive the world. One is our mind, and the other one is our heart. So there are people that are more minded oriented. There are other people that are more heart oriented. There's no better or worse. In the end, it's about balance, but balance about the two. And even for a musician or for a composer, I mean, you need to be able to put all your emotions into the music, into the instrument, into the moment of sharing. But at the same time, your mind needs to be there to keep the whole structure of the whole architecture of the piece in place. And it's wonderful. It's almost like bringing three-dimensionality to your perception and to the music itself. And then, to me, the most special moment when I play is when I feel the audience, because they close the circle of creation. Through their sensitivity, is them who give a special meaning to music, to our dream, to the music, because music belongs to them. So to me, the most wonderful thing about being a musician is having the opportunity of being on a stage and having a look to so many beautiful souls through music.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. So guitar, I think in a lot of people's minds is pretty closely linked with Spanish culture and certainly Spanish music. I'm curious, when you were growing up, was music in general and guitar specifically a really important part of sort of the culture around you?
I think so. I mean, the guitar is one of the few instruments as you say, that is very much linked to a culture and a country. If you think of guitar in Spain, is yes, of course, it's one thing. So at the same time, because of the versatility of the instrument, the guitar belongs to the world as much to Spain. If you think about how the guitar is part of the folk music, Argentinian music, Brazilian music, Mexico, the mariachis, but you also go to bluegrass or pop or rock, and there is always a guitar. So the guitar is the instrument of the people. It's the most democratic instrument, and that's its value. And it's so honest. It is an honest voice of who we are. So as I was growing up, yeah, the guitar was part of my life in a very natural way, and somehow it's like you have it there. You know, the guitar is almost everyone in Spain has seen a guitar, or many people can play a few chords, and that makes it very close to our culture, and also when you think about the Spanish music, you think about flamenco music and folk music. These two musics that are part of Spanish music, and these two, the flamenco and the folk music in the Spanish tradition, they both have the guitar. So in the end, when I'm playing Spanish music, it is part of me. It is, I don't know how to explain it. I don't know even, I mean, I can verbalize to a student how to phrase something, or how to, the accents or the rhythms and the harmonies and the Phrygian cadence. But in the end, it's about how you relate to it. And to me, it is my voice. It is the voice of Spain. It is the voice when I was growing up. It is just, talking about who I am, talking about, where I was growing up, talking about my friends, talking about, dancing the music. When I was a teenager, I used to dance the music myself, as the jotas, and wearing, the traditional costumes, and all that in the end makes the experience one, because I become one with the music I'm playing, and I also think, as a Spaniard, I'm a cultural ambassador of all those values and all those images and all those landscapes. So, once coronavirus is over, that I hope very soon, come to Spain, and you'll be fascinated by its landscapes, its people, and its music, its culture, food, wines. I mean, you name it.
Sounds like it's time for a Pacific Symphony field trip.
Yeah, exactly. Come, I'll help you organize.
Yeah, great, perfect, sold. So when did you realize that you wanted to actually become a professional guitarist and really make that your life's work?
Yeah, I was 15 years old, but before that, there was a very special moment where I felt, it was like an epiphany. I felt something extraordinary with music. And that was when I was 7 years old and I went on stage for the first time. And that day, I felt the magic and power of music when you share it. And when you connect with an audience, when you share it. And that connection was sublime. That connection, I didn't know what I was feeling, but I loved it. So after that day, I just wanted to be on a stage all the time. And since I was a kid, and that was kind of difficult to be, as a 7-year-old playing very simple tune to be on a stage every weekend. So I went with my parents, I went to nursing homes of Logroño, La Rioja, and I was already living my dream. I was playing every weekend for the people there, and I still remember those smiles, and they were happy, and I was even more happy. So yeah, that day really defined my relationship with the music and guitar in a very deep way. But then, at some point you need to make decisions in life. And that was when I was 15, 16. I was already deciding that, and it was a very easy and natural decision. I didn't need to think too much, that came came in a very natural way, organic way through years. And, you know, when I was 15, 16, yeah, I decided to become a guitarist, to devote myself to this lifestyle and to give the best of myself, because in the end, music and art and life, because it doesn't matter what you do in life, is about giving the best you can. And when you do that, you are honoring yourself. And it is about excellence. It is about, yeah, celebrating who you are and whatever you can do. You know, certain people will be able to do this and certain people do this, but in the end, if this is your best and this is your best, that's what life is about.
You know, speaking of doing your best, you've, as I mentioned at the top of the hour, you know, you've competed in many competitions, you've won many competitions, and you've written on your website sort of your thoughts on the whole idea of music competitions, such as like the Christopher Parkening competition. So I'm curious, you know, you obviously traveled extensively doing these sorts of things and competing. What is your philosophy, or if you have students, like what do you try to impart to them about the pros and cons of, you know, a classical musician doing something like a competition that is sort of like turning it in almost into an Olympic sport in a way?
Yes. And yeah, I've done so many, and I did so many because that was a while ago. The last competition I did was probably 14 years ago. But to me, it was a wonderful exercise through which I learned a lot. And you need preparation, and it is very important to understand first your purpose as a musician, that surely will go beyond competitions. And then what's the purpose of a competition? So, you know, you put into perspective that the competition is not the top of the mountain you want to climb. This is part of your journey. And in the end, to me, it was a great way to share music, to be to learn new music, to prepare with a goal. So you had a goal, you have a date that everything had to be ready. To learn how to play and give your best under pressure, to develop your concentration, your memorization, to develop also your ideas as a musician, you know, as a young guitarist, to put your statement and to make a different statement from other guitarists, to be true to yourself, to be kind to others, and to accept also, to accept that in the end, music belongs to the heart more than to the mind, because it is art. So competition is defined in the end by a score, right? I mean, and they write the score and the jury in the end makes that decision. And that's, you know, putting a number to music. And that's in the end, you know, is not the most natural thing for music. So understanding that in the end, you know, respecting other competitors is part of the journey. And there will be times that there will be other competitors that will be playing or in that moment better than you, and that you can learn from them as well, and that you can celebrate. If you are able to celebrate the triumph of a competitor, that makes you the winner. And that's, you know, fighting against your ego. And there are so many things that happened during my years of competitions, and all that is part of learning. And I learned a lot. And in the end, you know, there were a few competitions that also helped me a little bit. But in the end, building a career and devoting yourself to a career as a musician goes beyond competitions and goes far more beyond competitions. So it's taking that experience, so then you can apply those learnings to your live performances when you are on a stage playing for an audience. So yeah, I think not everyone has to do competitions, but if you like the adrenaline rush, you know, go for them, and you will learn a lot. But also understand that there will be only one winner, like in the Olympics. So you know, be be yourself and be you who is the best judge of yourself. So if you gave your best, if you are happy how you played, if you learned from it, then accept and the results, and be happy with yourself, with what you offered and you gave of yourself.
Yeah, and I really like your advice about also thinking of competitions not just as musical learning experiences, but also how to work with colleagues and sort of develop a rapport with people that are also pursuing the same thing as you, even if they're competing against you. I think it's really important.
Yeah.
So you do a lot of, at least in non-pandemic times, you do a lot of traveling around and performing concertos with orchestras, which I think is so interesting as a guitarist, because I think that guitar can often be seen as this very intimate instrument that's a little bit almost at odds with the idea of playing a concerto. And I'm curious, when you are performing a guitar concerto, are there any special considerations that have to be made in terms of anything from balance to coordination with the orchestra? Like, how do you approach something like that?
Yes, I love playing with orchestras. It is fascinating to feel this sound behind you, and the exuberance of the sound of an orchestra, the sophistication, the I don't know, the general sound of the orchestra is very visceral, and I love it. So yeah, there are so many considerations to be made when you play with orchestra. The first one and most obvious is there are 60 or 50 or 40 people playing on a stage with a guitar. And so the first thing I share with the conductor and the orchestra is, well, I like to present the guitar in a very natural way, without amplification if possible, and very organic. I want the audience to feel that profoundness and vulnerability of the guitar at the same time. So for the orchestra, it's an invitation to explore dynamics, to go to the pianissimos. We all have these pianissimos from, the slow movements of Mahler, right? When they start, and you don't know when they started, but out of the sudden, it's like there is a whisper of sound somewhere. And those are magical moments. Those are powerful moments. 60 people playing that so piano that they don't even know if they are playing or not. But there is a sound. There is the born in that vulnerability of sound, which is so fragile and so profound. So that's an opportunity when they play with an orchestra. When the guitar is playing, just explore those colors, though that fragility, that whisper from your instrument. And at the same time, when the orchestra has the tutti and it's by themselves, go forte. So in that moment, you are expanding the dynamics so much. So you are pushing the pianissimo dynamics all the way to the bottom, and then you are allowing them to go forte if they want to. So that creates a wider and bigger space of interpretation, which is more dramatic. So that's one of the things that I think that I believe when I play with an orchestra is dramatic. It's one guitar with an orchestra. And the attitude of when you go on a stage and are about to begin with an orchestra is out there. You need to be out there. The sound needs to be out there. Your personality, your gaze, your sound, everything needs to be out there, because you want to reach out until the last row of the audience. They need to feel that you're speaking to them in a very personal way. So when you are playing a recital, it's the opposite. It's an invitation. It's come here. I'm about to tell you a story, but come closer. But when orchestra is much bigger. And the other thing that is very important, and that applies to any concerto, any soloist playing with orchestra, is rhythm. Your rhythm needs to unify and be one with the orchestra. The pulse, the rhythm, everything needs to flow, and you need to feel that it is a conversation, it is a dance with the orchestra. And sometimes you invite them to enter, sometimes you reject them. And sometimes the orchestra will do the same. Sometimes the orchestra invites you and you enter. And sometimes the orchestra in an accent will go ta-da, and then you ta-da. It's a rejection. So, so being aware that you are not by yourself, and that requires experience. And I think most soloists would say very similar things, is being able to be outside and your perception needs to be part of the orchestra, that sound. And the other part of yourself needs to be with your instrument, with your voice. So that's how you create that conversation with the orchestra. So being out, being in, and at the same time, in the end, being part of the audience. So that's when you share it. I love playing with orchestras, and you know, and a big part of this is the human component also of playing with other musicians and feeling you know so much love from them. And that's something that I also like to take care of. That when I start rehearsals, is addressing the orchestra, greeting them, being grateful. And to me, you know, every time I'm receiving the applause is also for them, because it's the orchestra, it's teamwork, and teamwork makes the dream work. And it's when we are all unified that music goes into deeper levels and of profoundness. And for me, the human component is what makes music profound. So I want the orchestra to feel my gratitude to them. I want them to feel my passion for the music I'm playing with them, and that we're all one, we're all the same. I'm the soloist, I'm in the front, but we're all the same. And with the conductor, the same thing. It's teamwork, and to me, everything what we do is an act of generosity for the audience, and to feel that generosity. And in the end, it is for you. We've devoted our lives, you know, 60 people on a stage. We've all devoted our lives to an instrument for years and years, and hours and hours and hours and hours of practice since we were kids for that moment. And that's something that I also like to celebrate with the orchestra. And I tell them, because sometimes we all need a friendly reminder why we do what we do. And when I do that, I also remind myself why I do what I do. And then, you know, music speaks by itself.
On a slightly smaller scale than playing with orchestra, you know, you've recorded albums of chamber music in addition to solo and orchestral music, with people like Augustin Hadalik, who's another popular guest with Pacific Symphony. In general, would you say that chamber music is also a big part of your life, in addition to, you know, like playing with orchestras and doing solo concerts?
Yeah, I like everything. I like everything because in the end, it's about music. It's about people. It's about sharing. And yeah, I love everything. The times when I collaborated and I played with Augustine or singers or other artists or chamber music, it's been wonderful. Everything has its own space, musical space and ecosystem, and you adapt to it. And in the end is beautiful because it's making music with someone else allows you to interact with that musician, and it is very alive. It's the human interaction that makes it very alive. So yeah, I love playing with orchestras. When I play by myself is very different. As I said, it's an invitation. It's storytelling. It's you know, it's like like a storytelling around the fire, more or less. But when I play with orchestra, it's, you know, out there. When I play with a chamber music, is something in between. So yeah, I love music. In the end, music is something that we cannot put tags and music is the language of our emotions, and that's what makes it very powerful. And even, you know, it's hard for me to put tags into different kinds of music. We play classical music, as we call it, and it brings us to some, you know, very deep levels of sophistication and emotions, and in many different ways. But then, you know, there is a simple song of a singer with a guitar is also can be also beautiful. So music is wherever resonates within your heart, and also, and I know it is part of culture and developing that relationship that you will create with music. And I believe that it is very important to educate our kids, our children, our youth, that classical music can be part of their lives as well, and should be part of their lives as well, because it's a gift that they will enjoy if they are exposed in the right way. And I truly believe in that, and I've experienced through my social project playing for kids in the right way with the right invitation. Music has the ability to change their lives forever. So and then, you know, it's this planting those seeds that will remain for the rest of their lives, and in many cases those seeds will grow into flowers, into many of them. And I'm sure that, you know, there are many subscribers now at the Pacific Symphony and many different symphonies that they all remember why they are there. And most of them will probably think, well, you know, when I was a kid, my dad or my uncle or, you know, my parents brought me to this symphony and I was mesmerized, or something that really was the seed. And you know, that's it. Is very powerful. It's a gift that classical music can do in a very natural way.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little about your actual instrument that you play on?
Yes. So, well, my guitar.
Yeah.
My guitar. Many people ask me, does it have a name? And no, it doesn't. But, you know, the first time someone asked me that, I was thinking, well, why not? Or why should I? And then I thought, well, it doesn't have a name because it is me. It is part of me. It is an extension of who I am. It is an extension of my hands. It is an extension of my emotions. So yeah, I'm as any musician, I feel very, very close and connected to my instrument. And my instrument is the most transparent mirror where to look at. And for the good and for the bad, for my fears and for my gifts, everything is reflected in a very natural way. And music to me, and the guitar, has been an instrument for me to grow, to evolve, to transmute. And my guitar is from Germany, actually. You know, and many people laugh because it's like, okay, you're telling us, you know, half of the time all about Spain and Spanish guitar, and, you know, and your voice and the soul of the Spanish guitar and all that, and then it's like, and you have a German guitar? Give me a break. But no, in the end, you know, the guitar now is very international. There are wonderful luthiers anywhere in the world, and I studied in Germany many years ago, and I had the chance to cross paths with this luthier, and I tried his guitars, and I fell in love. And in the end, I think that, you know, the instrument chooses you, or you choose the instrument. I don't know how it works, but in the end, you feel this is the one. So I felt that was the one, and it's been with me all these years, and it's a beautiful instrument. Yeah, I love it. It has I don't want to go very technical, but, you know, it has a very, very thin soundboard, almost as transparent as a sheet of paper, and that makes it very sensitive to vibration. So it is very unique. It's a new technique that this luthier Matthias Daman created by himself, and yeah, it's part of my voice.
Well, it sounds beautiful. You sound gorgeous on it. Um, I would love to share with everybody another clip so we can actually, get to hearing more of you and it. So this is the composer Heitor Villa-Lobos's first prelude for guitar. And I believe this is from a recital that you played at the Concertgebouw,
Yes, in
um,
Amsterdam.
which is obviously a legendary concert hall. Is there anything you'd like to tell us about the piece before we listen to it?
When I was growing up, I always loved Villalobos. I couldn't wait to play all the music that he composed. And still until today, I love his music. And Heitor Villalobos was a good friend of Andrés Segovia. And as a result of this friendship, he composed for him many pieces. These 5 preludes, I played the first one. Then he completed Suite Brasileña. He also composed a guitar concerto. And yeah, he played the guitar himself, the composer. So he makes everything what he writes very idiomatic for the hand. And, he's able to make the guitar sounds very freely. One uniqueness about Villalobos is that he studied in Paris, as Joaquin Rodrigo did, and many of, or most of the composers of, of the 20s and 30s and 40s, and well, not 40s, but 20s, 30s, and his music has this fragrance of Paris, right? The impressionistic style was still in the air in Paris. So all these composers took some of that in their music, but in the end, it was going back to the roots of Villalobos in this case, going to the roots of the folk music from Brazil, the sambas, the bossa nova, the African rhythms, and he masterfully is able to combine these two styles, the tradition and the sophistication of Paris. So in this prelude number 1. There is a voice, like a tenor voice in the bass, and there is like a bossa nova accompaniment in the trebles, ta 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 ta, very Brazilian. And then there is a contrasting part in the middle of it, and it is a folk tune, very rhythmic and a totally different character. So yeah, enjoy it.
All right, here we go. gorgeous, absolutely beautiful.
Thank you, Ben.
So changing directions just a little bit, one of the things I was really excited to learn about was that you gave the world premiere of this piece Rounds by the legendary composer John Williams, who is a big idol of mine and I think a lot of people's. And I'm just curious, like, how did that project come about? Were you involved in the sort of the genesis of that piece?
No, I wasn't. Actually, it was a surprise. I was in Spain and I received a call by Christopher Parkening saying, "Yeah, John Williams is composing a piece for me. I won't be able to play it, but would you be able and would you like to play it?" I was like, "Wow, of course, wow, what a wonderful opportunity! Of course, really, wow." So I was, I couldn't. I was in nine cloud, or how you say, yeah, in cloud nine. I was really, really excited. So then I asked him, "Well, when do I have to premiere it?" And he said, "In 2 weeks." I was like, "What? In 2 weeks?" But how difficult it is. I mean, it's well, yeah, he's finishing the few details and everything, but it's in 2 weeks. So I said, "Okay, send me the score as soon as possible, and of course I'll do it. I'll do it." There are certain things as in life as a musician that you don't know how you'll be able to do them, but you do them. And it's like, of course, I'll do it. I don't know how, but I'll figure out. And that's wonderful, because one way or the other, you always find the way to make it happen, and life helps you to make it happen. So he sent me the score, and of course, those 2 weeks I was learning the piece and practicing so many hours every day and night. I think I was like 24 hours journey, and I was able even to memorize it. So I wanted to what a beautiful opportunity. I wanted to give absolutely my best. So it was a full dedication, and then another beautiful surprise came along. It's like, well, John Williams would like to meet you and to listen to his piece, Rounds, before you premiere it. So I was, overexcited. I went to the premiere. Took place in Malibu at Pepperdine University, and 2 days before, or the day before, John Williams invited me and Christopher Parkening to his home in LA, and he was one of the most extraordinary human beings I've ever met. He's so human, so humble, so so close to you and to me, and he was he was calling me by my name, and he offered me a tea, and then I started to play the piece, and then 10 seconds later he said, "Oh, well, this is too formal. Come by my piano." And he sat on the piano and he started to explain me every measure, every chord, every note, every melody, and he was playing it on the piano, and he was explaining me what he was thinking, or his vision in every part of the piece. And then I was there with my guitar and playing it at the same time, and it was just magical. I mean, time flew so quickly that we completely lost the track of time. And he received a call, and it was his wife, and apparently he had to go to a reception where Spielberg and other directors from Hollywood were waiting for him, and they had been waiting for 2 hours. So we stayed 3 hours working on the piece, and he totally forgot about the reception, about time and everything. And of course, he apologized, and he said, "Oh, I'm sorry to be so abrupt, but the people are waiting for me, and it's been a pleasure." And then afterwards, I've been in touch with him a couple of times, and he's been so generous with his time and his advice, and he's, you know, a real gentleman. You know, this gentleman from other times that, you know, he would reply my letters by hand and things like that. That, you know, it's one of the most wonderful things. I think it is the second most wonderful thing of being a musician. The first one, of course, is being on a stage and sharing music. But after that is the amount of people that I've had the opportunity to meet, to cross paths, to learn from. And that's something that makes my life so rich. And that's been a great inspiration for me to continue doing what I'm doing. And the inspiration I try to offer when I'm on stage is the inspiration I receive from the audience and all these wonderful human beings that I've crossed paths.
Well, that is just such a cool story, and, you know, amazing. And I think anybody who's worked with John Williams would say similar things about, you know, he's just the most incredible person. And, you know, how cool to get to not only premiere a piece by him, but also to get to work with him that closely on it. That's really cool.
Yes.
So we've had a few questions that I want to make sure we get to from people who are watching.
Wonderful.
Rosalind Britton wants to know if you could tell us a little bit more about the social project that you mentioned for children. Is this the Legacy of Music Without Borders?
Yes, that's this is a big part of who I am. I mean, there's no separation between the Pablo who plays at Pacific Symphony and with other symphonies, and the Pablo that goes to Tijuana and other parts of the world and shares music with kids and youth. I've played for more than 45,000 kids around the world. It's a non-profit project. I go with my guitar and I'm a storyteller. And I started telling these stories in 2007 in Tijuana, in the border region between Tijuana and San Diego. And I, you know, I wasn't very sure how to begin on or anything, but, you know, I took my guitar and I went to all these different schools. It was coordinated by different foundations, local foundations. So yeah, I started telling them stories, and stories that create images. Images are very powerful for anyone. So those stories had values of multiculturality, respect, tolerance, believing in yourself, respect for yourself and others, loving for yourself, love for yourself, all that, believing in dreams, working to get them, and giving the best of yourself. All those values were part of the stories. And then I would play a piece related to that story. So the piece I would play for them is the soundtrack of the story, and somehow is the seal of those values into their emotional state. So yeah, I've done that all these years. I continue doing it, and it's part of who I am. And you know, in the end, playing at Carnegie Hall, playing in school, it's basically the same. And many kids used to ask me that question. It's like, wow, what's the difference when you play in all these great halls around the world and when you play for us here in this humble school? And I would say, well, the wrapping paper is different. You know, when you play at Carnegie Hall, the box is bigger and the wrapping paper is shinier and everything. But in the end, the content is the same. It is about music, and it is about you. It's about people. It's about the people who enjoy music. So yeah, I've learned so much through it, and that taught me so many things. But among them, I think one of the most important ones for me is that music belongs to people, and that music is for everyone. Music, you know, is for kids, is for youth, is for any age, because in the end it's about emotions. It's about what music makes you feel. And it's been wonderful. So that's part of who I am. I've continued developing. You know, after a few years, I was able to get some private funding from some donors, and I was able to create some music programs in Tijuana. So there were local teachers that would go every week to those schools to teach them music. And it's beautiful. It's very inspiring. And in the end, is sharing a little bit who I am and what I've received with people that don't usually have the opportunity and the access to go to a concert hall and to listen to wonderful music.
It's just such a great project and also such an important one, like you said. And I think just a reminder that music is for everybody, and that, you know, the more we share it with people, the more powerful it actually becomes.
Yes,
So
because in the end,
awesome.
music is one of the few elements that unify the human condition, and that's very powerful. You know, when you play, when I play on a stage, I feel that unifying element that everyone, we are all in the same place, we are all in the same emotional place, and at the same time, every person is receiving that message through a very personal way. It's your message, but there is another element that, you know, it unifies us all with a common message. So it's it's powerful.
Yeah. Well, I just want to thank you so much for joining us, you know, for this hour. It's been so amazing getting to, you know, sort of hear your thoughts on all these things, and just, you know, hear about all the amazing things you've done. And, you know I speak for everybody who's here when I say that, you know, I'm very much looking forward to when, you know, the pandemic is over and everybody can travel again, and when you will come back to Pacific Symphony and perform with us, because it's always really special.
Thank you very much, Ben. It's been my pleasure. I have so many wonderful memories of the times I've spent in Orange County with the symphony, all the friends, my message is of gratitude, and also my message is, you know, of patience and giving the best of yourself as we are all doing, and you know, hopefully very soon we'll be able to continue celebrating music on stages and celebrating who we are as human beings, and, you know, giving all the hacks that we were not able to give through all these months, all the best to you all, and we are all fighting together this, and we'll win.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. Next week, we'll be back at our normal 5 o'clock time with Brian Lauritsen from KUSC, who I'm very excited to welcome. So be sure to look out for an email for that. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Pablo. Have a great night, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Thank you very much, Ben. Thank you all. Hasta pronto.
Bye.
Bye.